So if you think about baseball season that started last night in Atlanta and the structure of Major League Baseball, I think it's instructive for where we need to be as a party, right? So you've got the big pro team that plays at Turner Field, and you've got a AAA team, the next set of guys coming up. You've got a AA team, a single A team, and you got scouts going out there, even going to high school games, watching these players and, you know, taking notes, going back, talking to the coach. But there's somebody in the front office of the Braves and every Major League Baseball team who looks out across all of those teams and thinks, okay, this guy might be ready to go here next year, or hey, look at the progress he's making. And in our party, we've got our county chapters, we've got young Republicans, we've got college Republicans, we've got teen Republicans, and in all of these organizations, someone needs to be looking out and saying, how can we develop this talent, this leadership? How can we help Brant 5 get into a place where he has more influence in the county? And if we're thinking like that in 159 counties, then we don't have a problem with the next generation of leadership. But we're not thinking like that, and we need to be. So I encourage you to do something like and I'm going to donate one to the county party here. This is Bastier's book, The Law, just about strong, heavy federal overreach, and this is what we have going on in our country right now. You could do an essay contest down here for county young people. The party could offer a $100 first prize, a $50 second, $25 third. Very little investment on your part. It might generate. In fact, you want to do it, I'll donate you the books. I think about Mike Cohen, one of the youngest elected representatives. He's running the subsequent injury trust fund for the governor right now, but he was elected like at 23. He defeated a Republican from Lawrenceville who had a Hooters girl as his assistant, and this representative needed to go. Vincent Wall, if you remember, the infamous Vincent Wall, who was down there offering bills to lower the age for nude dancing. I mean, this is the kind of thing that this Lawrenceville Republican was trying to do. Mike Cohen ran against him at 21 and lost, ran again at 23 and took him out. In fact, Vincent Wall tried to take Mike Cohen out because the night before the election, Vincent Wall was out pulling up Cohen signs. Mike caught him, and Vincent Wall attacked Mike with a hammer. Mike filed, press charges, and then Mike, of course, beat him the next day, and then the party talked him into dropping the charges. But Mike Cohen was paid by his employer to read the Constitution of the United States. His employer, when he was 16 years old, came to Mike and said, look, you want to earn some extra money? Sure. Read this, and we'll have a hamburger together and talk about it, and I'll give you $10. Mike started reading. Mike read that, and then he said, what else can I read? How about this Federalist paper? Stuck that in front of him. He read that, got another $10, and he just kept doing this. And Mike, ran for office at 21. This is what this type of thing does. It causes young people to want to engage, and we need our side engaged. Can I get an amen? Amen. So how do you get our young people engaged? You don't do it through osmosis. You don't hope one day that they wake up and go, I want to run for office. You prepare them. You teach them the ideology. You teach them how to get elected. And then when they're ready, you run them for office, assuming that you've got the right seat. Don't want to throw them out there as a sacrificial lamb. Don't want to damage their brand. But you wait. I waited 29 years. I told Truett Cathy, I got this Rotary Club Award April 24th, 1978 at the Atlanta Airport Rotary Club. This is the day I met Truett Cathy. He told me to come by his office after this meeting. I drove my little truck over there, met with him. He said, I want you to listen to these Zig Ziglar tapes, go off to college, come back, and I'll give you a store. This is when Chick-fil-A's headquarters was in a little Butler building over there, in Hapeville. Some of you know what I'm talking about. Smaller than this restaurant. Well, I did that. I listened to those tapes. I came back to him, and he said, I got a store in Texas or Ohio. Which one do you want? And I said, sir, I set a goal to be a statewide elected official. I can't leave the state because I can't run for office if I leave the state. And he laughed and said, when you going to run? Like I knew at 21. I waited 29 years for the right opportunity. 29 years. So we want to make sure our young people aren't hasty, that they're wise, that they're prudent, and that's why having people around them, counseling them, is advisable. So we give them opportunity to practice their leadership, we build their stature, we help them to wait, and then we turn them loose, and then we hold them accountable. That's the way it ideally should work. It's not necessarily working that way. And let me tell you the results of things being out of control. This is the EPA rule that came down. This is the draft of the EPA rules, heavier than my King James Bible. Came down last July. It's going to become final this July after they make some changes. Now, they've gotten a lot of comments. I'm not just talking about a few thousand, I'm talking about a few million comments. A lot of complaints, not just from red states, mostly red states, because this does put coal out of business. This treats carbon dioxide as a pollution. Now, I know what pollution is. We've got sulfur, and we're containing that. We've cut it 85%. We've got mercury, we cut it 90%. We've got NOx, nitrous oxide, we cut that 90%. But CO2, anything that these plants, the 21 million acres of forest, anything that 21 million acres of trees like to eat, can't possibly be pollution. But that's how this rule and the President's philosophy treats it. I think this Newsweek article really sums up what's happening, and this is about the Department of Interior shutting down an oyster company in San Francisco with their rules. By the way, the EPA administrator, presidential appointee. Secretary of Interior, presidential appointee. Tell me if I can get an amen on this. The federal government is spinning science to justify environmental policy. Can I get an amen? That's what they're doing. And look, I have been a broken record on this. I've even been to the point that I've been a little bit rude. I was with Carol Bronner, Clinton's EPA administrator, the other day, last Friday, week ago. She spoke before me. She starts in on this same thing. We got to do something about carbon pollution. We've got to do this about climate, this and that. And I stood up afterwards and I said, with all due respect, to the administrator, words matter. And your word, pollution, mischaracterizes what's happening. And in fact, it's deceiving a whole generation. And it shouldn't be the case. This rule is unfair, and that's only the beginning about what's unfair in this rule. What's ironic to me is that on the one hand, the president's climate czars say we've got to have nuclear power to reach our clean energy goals. We want 80% clean energy by 2050, and without a substantial new fleet of nuclear reactors, we can't do it. Why? Because those are carbon-free. Those are carbon-free generation. They produce a lot of power. One Vogtle reactor produces more power than all of our solar in our state that we've contracted for, and we're now the 7th largest solar state. One Vogtle reactor, there will be 4. That's how stout those nuclear reactors are and how much power that they produce 24/7. But this rule doesn't give us credit for building 3 and 4, and we've complained about it. The power companies complained about it. Every commissioner's complained about it. The governor's complained about it. Multiple states has complained about it. And the end result, when you don't give something a proper incentive, is that other states aren't going to follow. I mean, we're taking a substantial chance building these reactors. We haven't built nuclear power in 30 years in this country. So you launch into a project that's the largest construction project certainly in the state, almost in the U.S., and almost in the world. 4,200 craft workers over there working Monday through Friday. So this is a great economic project, and when you go to Augusta, people love nuclear power over there. It's the Silicon Valley of nuclear power. You've got the Savannah Riverside across the river. You've got Barnwell down there where they store waste. You've got Plant Summer. You've got the Oconee nuclear station up there with three reactors. People love nuclear power over there. They understand it. Public opinion is strong. But the president's rule and his message differ. And as a result, we're not getting the proper credit for this. And we'll continue to complain, but the federal government is very strong, as we know. There's all kind of things. Volcanoes cause CO2. There's all kind of things that cause CO2. But they've made the demon the plant. This regulates just the plants. And so when I ask for credit for the trees, our trees mitigate CO2 pollution, quote pollution, the way they're using it. New Mexico doesn't have this kind of pine trees. Arizona doesn't have this. Nevada doesn't have this. Our topography, our topography gobbles CO2, but the EPA doesn't give us any credit for that. That's one of the reasons it's unfair. Bottom line, what it is, it's a wealth transfer. It's a wealth transfer from certain states to other states, because what's a part of this plan is making deals with states that don't have to reduce theirs. The Department of Interior, as this article mentions, and shutting down an oyster company, these federal agencies, when they set rules, it causes private businesses to incur expenses. And then when you incur expenses, you've got to make a decision. You've got to make a decision, is it more feasible, based on the rule, to close these coal plants and do something else, or do we go ahead and press forward? We'll never build another coal plant in Georgia, unfortunately. This is here we've got a resource, an American resource. And, Chuck Eaton, my colleague, I think is right when he said, I think when India and China, they're going to buy our coal because our coal is cheap, and they're going to burn it, but they're not going to put the pollution controls on it that we're doing. So Chuck said, it wouldn't surprise me if we wind up with a net increase in CO2. So here, the president wants to handcuff our country, right, and in some cases cripple business to, quote, lead the world. You think China, do you really think China and India are going to sacrifice their economy for this? No, they're going to go, you know what, we got these guys on the mat. They're crazy. Let's make hay while the sun shines. So this is the biggest thing that we're facing right now, and it's something that I wake up, thinking about every day.